And good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I am your host, Kim Davis. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And a happy heavenly birthday to my father, who was born on Valentine's Day. So I have on some red, if you can see it, in celebration of Valentine's Day. I am back home in Houston after being in Phoenix last week for Super Bowl 57. I forget the numbers, right? And so, man, lots to catch up on. So today's show, we're talking a lot about what happened with the Super Bowl. I'm going to bring you some of the, let you hear from some folk, a few sights and sounds from Super Bowl 57. And we're also going to look toward the future, even though last week was the NFL's week, supposedly. Well, the NBA was just doing a whole lot, right? A whole lot happened in terms of trades and deals and moves, and we're going to look at some of those a little bit. We'll do more of that coming up in coming weeks, but we definitely are going to talk about some stuff that happened in Super Bowl 57, which is like the official end of the 2022-2023 football season. And now free agency starts. Everyone's looking toward the draft. The Houston Texans are trying to finish up their coaching staff. So a lot happening, but welcome to Chalk Talk. And as always, we want to start with talking about, reminding you, the people who help us do this show each and every week. And those are our true and trusted partners. The World Youth Foundation is our title sponsor for this month. And we are getting closer and closer to the African American Male Wellness Association Male Wellness Walk in Houston, which kicks off the African American Male Wellness Association's walk season. They're walking around the country, but they're going to start it right here in Houston on April the 15th. Continue to watch this space for information on how you can get involved, right? How you can walk, how you can maybe volunteer, maybe you want to be a supporter. There's a number of things that you can do. So continue to watch this space, and also to find out more about the amazing work happening with the World Youth Foundation. All right, so that's one of our partners, and the other that's been with us a long time is Kim and LJ Williams of Jinka. I love Jinka, and I'm going to share with you later in the show. I'll let you see an article that was just written on them in Essence magazine. They're doing some great stuff, and of course, Jinka is great for inflammation. I could have used some Jinka last week in Phoenix when I was having some issues because just the weather changed and some respiratory stuff, kind of like allergy, although I don't have allergies anymore. But I didn't have Jinka. I didn't take any with me. I didn't get any Phoenix. Now, if you're in Phoenix and you want Jinka, you can order it online. I just wasn't going to be there long enough I needed it right then. And so what I say is you should always have your Jinka with you. It's great for inflammation. It's great for pain. It's great for your immune system. If you're having like some stuffiness, like I'm going to get some Jinka today. And so I encourage you to get it. If you are in Southeast Texas and primarily Houston and South, you can get it at HEB, and here's where you find it.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department, the probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Look at that Jinka sale. Look at that Jinka.
And of course, don't forget about Kimmy Treats. If you're in Houston, you can go and get it at Sunshine's Vegetarian Deli on Old Spanish Trail, not far from NRG and not far from the medical center, or you can go online and order it at kimmytreats.com. It's non-GMO popcorn. It's made with coconut oil, and it's clean. Like the ingredients are on the package. My favorite, I've had people ask me, although my signature flavor is probably truffle, my favorite is probably ghost pepper, but I like them all. And of course, the other flavor is vegan chili cheese. Here's what it looks like. And oh, by the way, your skin may be dry because of, it's that time of year. Get you some body butter while you're there. All right, so let's try that again. Not sure why that happened. Let me let you see the video. Here we go. Kimmy Treats. back. Don't you just love technology? All right, so listen, the Super Bowl 57, one of the things I always say is I really want to see a good game, and we got that. If you watch Super Bowl 57, you saw a great football game. You saw a couple of really, really good quarterbacks compete on the field. Ultimately, the Kansas City Chiefs won that game 38-35. It went down to literally the final seconds of the game with the Chiefs kicking a field goal to win it. But it was a great, great football game. People have asked about the commercials. I was in the stadium, so I didn't see them. I will go back maybe and look at them. Although I've heard from many of you that you were not impressed, that the Super Bowl commercials left a lot to be desired. And so I don't know. But I can tell you the game was all of that. So, it was Patrick Mahomes was the MVP. He followed up being named the MVP of the regular season with being named the MVP of the Super Bowl. And what I will say to you is he is amazing. However, on that night, Jalen Hurts was a better quarterback on the field. He just was. He played better that night, but his team didn't win, which is obviously the ultimate goal. And he was mindful of that. So I'm going to let you first hear from Chris Jones, a defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. After this is in post game after the Chiefs have won, and of course the Eagles went into halftime with a 10-point lead. I don't think any of us watching the game in the building, those of you at home, thought that game was anywhere close to being over. But here's Chris Jones after winning the Super Bowl championship in Phoenix.
Players made some big plays. Whether it's Nick Bolton scooping and scoring, whether it's
Okay, so we're having some technical issues, but it's okay. We're going to work through it. Here's Chris Jones yet again.
Players made some big plays. Whether it's Nick Bolton scooping and scoring, whether it's the big hits tonight, man. Those guys came to play, and resilient. I've been saying it all year. We faced adversity a lot this year, and throughout that, we was able to build character along this team. It's a young team right now. We got like 4 starters on defense, you know what I mean, and you have that type of team, we're always counted out. But these guys continue to fight. Most importantly, you got to give Spags his credit, man. Spags made adjustments. Spags have to battle you guys all year, talking about us, unfortunately, but we're super grateful to have Spags in this organization.
Defense Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. And so he did make adjustments. They went in at halftime, made adjustments. They made adjustments on offense. That's what really good coaches do, right? And so when it comes down to coaching, of course, you got to take Reid. Even though with a great season the Eagles had, you're going to pick an Andy Reid coach team if coaching is going to be the factor. And also, give Eric Bieniemy some credit. Pat Mahomes certainly did after the game. Patrick talked about, if you watched the game and you saw Kansas City driving with the ball, and instead of scoring right away and giving that Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts some time to get on the board, they stopped short, right? You saw the offensive players stop a yard or two before the goal line because they're eating up the clock. The goal was run the clock down, kick a field goal, and win it. And Patrick Mahomes said that's one of the things they practice all the time. Eric Bieniemy works on that, on just that. Like what happens? You talk about situational football, right? That's a comment that we hear from coaches a lot. That's situational football. There's a situation, and how do we handle this? We're not going to score quickly and give the other team time to get on the board. We're going to run the clock down, and then we're going to kick a field goal. And so that's what they did. So it was great. So that was Chris Jones after the game. Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, who looked like he did. He got hit in that ankle in the first half. You could tell by the look on his face. He was grimacing. He was in pain. He went off to the sideline. Of course, he stayed in the game. I don't think any of us thought he would do anything differently. Patrick Mahomes is a competitor. he's just a beast. And so we knew that he'd come back. How effective would he be? And so he came back, and he was pretty effective. Here's head coach, Chiefs coach Andy Reid talking about Patrick Mahomes after the game.
Without saying anything, that's the way he works. I mean, he wants to be the greatest player ever. That's what he wants to do. And that's the way he goes about his business. And he does it humbly. You know, I mean, there's no bragging. He could stand up here and give you these stats that are incredible that he's had, but he's never going to do that. That's just not him. And so we appreciate that. And then when it's time for the guys around to raise their game, he helps them with that. He's one of these great quarterbacks make everybody around him better, including the head coach. So he's done a heck of a job.
All right, so that was Andy Reid. Bear with me, you know, there's some technical gremlins this morning, I guess. The computer's getting kind of adjusted to being back in Texas. But he also said he makes the players around him better, everyone better. He said, and even the head coach, talking about himself. He's talking about Patrick Mahomes, you know, the young Patrick Mahomes, who's going to be great for quite a while. What a competitor. Now, at halftime, the Chiefs were down by 10. Here is Patrick Mahomes talking about what he said, when they went in, what happened when they went into the locker room at halftime, trailing the Eagles by 10.
Just they embraced the moment. I think that's the biggest thing is that first half, we were playing, we were doing some good stuff, but I felt like guys were getting consumed by everything around us and not just going out there and playing and enjoying this game that we've played since we were little kids. Guys talked to the locker room, and we just said, let's leave it all out there. Let's leave it all out there for 30 minutes and see what happens at the end of the day. And I thought guys did that, and I think the biggest thing was the offensive line. I mean, the way they were able to protect me in that second half whenever we couldn't use those chips, we couldn't use that stuff to help them out against a great defensive line. That's the reason we won this game.
He talks about the offensive line. He was not sacked one time. And we've heard about this Eagles defense all season. Although, I'm going to just say this right here. As I watched that game, and I'm giving all the credit to the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs won it. It's not that the Eagles lost it. The Chiefs won that game. What was Rich Gannon doing? I was confused sometimes by what they were doing defensively. By they, I mean the Chiefs in the second half. To me, it looked like they were not able to make adjustments to deal with the adjustments that the Chiefs made, right? Football is a game of, they say, of inches. It's also a game of adjustments. And we didn't really see that in the second half from the Eagles defense. They looked like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? It looked like that to me. Now, maybe if you were at home watching on TV and you got a chance to see the replays, it looked differently. But my buddy over at KHOU, the anchor Lynn Cannon, at one point, we were talking on Twitter, and he said, What are they doing? Yeah, it was, again, this is taking nothing from what the Chiefs did. They made the plays that counted. Defensively, they were aggressive and on point. Offensively, even though their leader, the focal point of this team, their captain, their leader, their champion, and Pat Mahomes was hobbled and got banged up. Like he said, that offensive line really protected him in the second half, and they were able to do what they needed to do. So it was a fun game to cover. It was a fun game to watch. But here's head coach Andy Reid also talking about what happened when they went in at halftime. I mean, he was asked that question probably 5 or 6 times because, of course, when he said the first time, he didn't mean. I say that sarcastically. But here's head coach Andy Reid talking about being down at 10 at the half.
You're right. We're down by 10, and that's not a lot with our defense and our offense in this type of game. And you got two of the best teams in football playing, so that's not a lot of points. And you just got to hang with each other, and good things will happen. And that was all I had to say. Listen, these guys are all in. They do a heck of a job. We have some great leaders on this football team.
Basically, he said they weren't tripping. They were down by 10, but with this defense that we have, with this offense we have, it was just 10 points. And he didn't say that. I mean, you heard it. That's why I wanted to play it. You heard the tone and it wasn't from a place of arrogance, but he was confident that this team would be okay. 10 points is nothing for this Chiefs offense that is, oh, by the way, run by Eric Bieniemy. I know that when things go really well, we want to talk about Andy Reid, but Eric Bieniemy is a big part of what they're doing in Kansas City. Even though Steichen, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, was just named head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, and Bieniemy can't even, I guess, get an interview anymore. But I digress. It is Black History Month. Although you know me, I think every month is Black History Month. I just, it makes me, make it make sense, y'all. That's what I say. Make it make sense. All right. Patrick Mahomes also took a moment after the game to talk about Jalen Hurts. Somebody asked him and said, hey, what do you think, about the way Jalen played? Or he was asked about Jalen Hurts. And so Patrick Mahomes said, if you were not a believer before, you definitely should be now. Here is Patrick Mahomes talking about Jalen Hurts after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
If there was any doubters left, there shouldn't be now. I mean, the way he stepped up on this stage and ran through the ball, whatever it took for his team to win, I mean, that was a special performance. I don't want it to get lost in the loss that they had. I mean, even whenever we got all the momentum in that game and we went up 8 points in the fourth quarter, for him to respond and move his team right down the football field and run it in himself with a 2-point conversion, it was a special performance by him, man. And I mean, you make sure you appreciate that when you look back on this game.
That was Patrick Mahomes talking about Jalen Hurts. And so then also at post-game, Jalen was asked about it. He said, hey, Patrick Mahomes had some really good things to say about you. Here is Jalen's response. And remember, the Chiefs had just won. They're Super Bowl champions. The Eagles, of course, are not. There's going to be one set of people after every game not feeling great. And, of course, on Sunday night, that group was the Philadelphia Eagles. Here is Jalen Hurts.
He's done some really great things this far. And for me, we lost. We came in to win, came up short. So, it's something that I know how to motivate me. I've been here before. That's the beautiful thing about it. So, figure it out.
It was kind of hard to hear. He said he's done some great things. He's talking about Patrick Mahomes. He said, but we lost, So acknowledging Mahomes and his comments, but at the end of the day, he knows it's about winning. Here's Jalen talking about the turnover that, of course, led to an Eagles touchdown. And, was that the difference? You never know. Obviously you want to get that back, but here's him talking about the turnover.
It hurt us. It hurt us. You never know what play it would be, but it hurt us. You look back and you want to reflect on the things. Maybe you could have done something more. Maybe you could have tried to do something, to change the outcome of the game. And that's the way it was.
All right, so that's Jalen Hurts talking about the turnover. He said it hurt him. And you never know which play is going to change the outcome of the game, but that definitely hurt him. Then he was asked, what's next? And this is Jalen Hurts showing you his leadership, right? He's a leader on and off the field. And here's Jalen, just lost the Super Bowl, first time there, talking about what's next.
That's how I feel. You the winner, you learn. So, as always, win, lose, and draw. I always reflect on the things that I could have done better, things we could have done better, and try and take the next step, and that'll be the same process that goes on now. Watch the film yet.
There is no doubt Jalen Hurts will be back. And let me say this. The Philadelphia Eagles need to just pay the man, right? Because the number's only going to go up. What we have seen from Jalen Hurts, what we know to be true about Jalen Hurts is that he gets better every season. He has become a better quarterback each offseason. He goes and adds something else to his toolbox and gets better. I have no doubt that will continue. Here's some stats from Sunday's game. So Patrick Mahomes passed for 182 yards, had three touchdowns, no interceptions in the air. Jalen Hurts threw for 304 yards, had 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He rushed for 70 yards, had 3 touchdowns. And Travis Kelce, of course, we knew Kelce was going to do his thing. He had 6 receptions, 81 yards, 1 touchdown, and by the way, he did do the stanky leg in the end zone. And then Pacheco also had 1 touchdown. So listen, it was an exciting game. It really was. I'm looking at things that may have stood out. Obviously, turnovers were key, right? The Eagles had a costly turnover, and on the other side, the Chiefs had no turnovers. There were no sacks. They were penalized 3 times for 14 yards. The Eagles were penalized 6 times for 33 yards. The Eagles won the time of possession battle, if you will. Total yards in offense. They were perfect on first down. They weren't awful on third down. They had more first downs, but at the end of the day, what matters is those points. And the Chiefs, the final was 38-35. But the turnover is one of the things that stands out. And then don't forget, one of the kickoff returns, the punt return, where the Chiefs run it back to 85 yards, 95 yards. That's huge. Neither of these teams is really known for their special teams prowess, but on Sunday, that play was also a game changer. Those 2 things were really, really huge. So listen, you're listening to Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Kim Davis. We're talking about Super Bowl. I'm going to see and check in on some of your questions. Good morning, my sister Sylvia. I love you too. Happy Valentine's Day, sister. Happy Valentine's Day, Mark, to you and your lovely wife. Good morning, good morning. I appreciate all you guys. Happy Valentine's Day, Carolyn from way out west. I was kind of near you, but not all the way there. I've got some thoughts about Phoenix too. Not Phoenix, but the stadium. Not my favorite. Good morning, Kevin Walker. Thank you. PhD, welcome home. Thank you, my friend. Happy Valentine's Day to you and yours. I hope you're having a great one. John McKee, wow. It's been a while. Happy Valentine's Day to you and your wife. Jonathan Gannon was preparing for interviews more than for the Super Bowl. Listen, I've never been a huge fan. I'm just glad it's not an issue for the Texans. They've got their head coach, so we don't have to worry about Gannon. But I was like, that's the guy? That's the guy? Hey, good morning, Charles Drayden. Welcome home. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you guys for tuning in. It has been, let me tell you guys something about the stadium. So the stadium in Glendale they don't have TVs on the concourse. So if you leave your seat to go grab something to eat or drink or go to the ladies' room or men's room, whatever the case may be, you can't see anything. But there was a moment, y'all. So the auxiliary press box was in the end zone, like the Eagles end zone, where you saw the Eagles. So we're sitting there. It were good seats, right? And they built this auxiliary press box. But the concourse that's right in front of the press box area, you have to, where you go if you're going to, move around. So I go down there at one point because I actually just want a cup of coffee. It's a long day. I get there really early. I'm there late. And I just certainly they have a place in the stadium, even if it's not a Starbucks. It could be somebody else's name, but can I buy some coffee? Because they didn't really have many accommodations for media. I know many of you may think, so what? But I'm telling you, the NFL used to, I've covered a lot of Super Bowls. They used to give us a little swag, a little bag that said Super Bowl, whatever the year was, either a backpack or some sort of work bag. We didn't get that. You're there early, and so they usually have some kind of pregame meal. It was hot kind of garbage. It was these cold buns, and they had a veggie one that just had like 4 pieces of cheese and 2 roasted red peppers. I'm just painting a scenario, which is why I was up moving around trying to like, let me go get something, right? I'm gonna be here for, all day. Got there at like 12 or 12:30 and, didn't leave to probably 11, 10:30, 11. So I go down and it's like this jam of people. It's packed. I stood in one place for like 8 minutes. People were pushing and yelling and shoving. One lady got sick. It was dangerous, but it was frightening. And somebody yelled out, "Is this our Travis Scott moment?" And I thought, that's not funny. But it was really, so once I got through it, I had to go back that way to get back to my seat, because I went and I'm like, you know what, I waited a moment and then tried to get back through it. There were security guards standing around kind of looking. I'm like, what is happening? It's not like the stadium holds 70,000 and they put 85,000 in there. Like, what are y'all doing, Arizona? So that was a big thing. I'm surprised it hasn't been, there were people said, I'm going to post this on TMZ. It was crazy. So that was an experience. No one in the stadium seemed to know anything about the stadium. There were a lot of people working. And you go and say, hey, can you tell me where the auxiliary press box is? And can you tell me where this is? I don't know. I heard that a ton of times. And then post-game, I'm down on the service level, trying to get the post-game, trying not to get a cop telling me I'm in the wrong space. So just because you don't have great signage, where's post-game? Where am I going? Not a lot of information. So I've been in many Super Bowls. I've worked on the staff. I don't understand why they seem so ill-prepared. Houston wasn't like that. Most cities I've gone to are not like that. So, when Super Bowl was in Houston, not even so the staff that I worked on, but even the one after that in 2017, first of all, NRG Stadium is much better, right? You've got monitors on the concourse. You can walk around. You've got options of what you can get in terms of food and beverage, and it's just a better situation. The acoustics in the stadium were not great, and apparently the field was hot garbage. Like, that was the issue. So anyway, those are just some observations from an operations standpoint that I noticed. But, other than that, the NFL obviously does a good job of putting on the game and a lot of stuff around the game. But those were some things that were a little bit disappointing to me. I might let you hear a little bit of this Cheryl Lee Ralph. I'm trying not to get the Facebook and YouTube police to lock me up and ban my show. I've tried to let them know, hey, my show's a news show, so I can play this. I didn't get it from TV. I was in the stadium. But we shall see. If not, I'll just post it on my social media platforms instead of so they don't block the show. But how about Cheryl Lee Ralph and the Negro National Anthem? Lift Every Voice and Sing. Amazing. She put her foot in that song. I'd like to know what you guys thought about halftime. What'd you think about Rihanna? I'm just curious. Drop it in the chat and let me know what you thought. And let me know what you thought about the game, right? I'm just curious if this was one of the best Super Bowl games that you've seen, where it ranks for you. I'm not really big on ranking all-time stuff, all-time players also. I just know it was a really good game, and I was glad of that, because it takes a lot to get to the Super Bowl. And so you get there, you want it to be a really great football game. There was great stuff throughout the week. I've been posting some of it on my social. I'm not a huge partier. I'm there to try to get some work done, meet some new people that I could have from my show, some other opportunities for Chalk Talk and the Katie Company. It was a business trip for me, but I did move around a little bit. And so on Saturday, one of the things I always like to do is go to Lee Steinberg's party. He had it at the stadium because that's how he rolls. And, and he had, of course he has entertainment, and that's one of the places where it's one of the places to be is the Lee Steinberg party. That evening, Serena Williams and I thought Offset, but they were having a party at Top Golf. So they had Top Golf was totally, bought out, and then DJ Khaled was performing. So we went to that. I like DJ Khaled, but to see him perform, I could live without it. I'm just saying, don't at me. If you're a big fan of his, that's cool. But I need you to not spend all your time saying your name. And then you start some songs and then you stop it. So people were like, what? One of the people that I'd never met before who was super cool is Jordan Sparks. She's just, friendly and genuinely just super cool. And so a couple of the people that I was with had met her before. We kind of were there with her team. And one of the ladies like, hey Jordan, do you remember us? And she was like, no. And it was just funny the way she said it. I mean, she's being honest, but she was super kind of cool about it. Then they reminded her, and she's like, oh yeah, I remember. But she was super cool. And Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight was super cool. He and his wife were there. And he was kicking it. I mean, we may have left him there. But, people move around. It's a lot happening. Tiffany Haddish was in her 4-inch heels at Top Golf. She must play a little bit of golf because she made contact, and her swing looked pretty decent. So I posted something with her, not talking to her, but just watching the swing in her little onesie and her heels. So can't be mad at it. Happy Valentine's Day, LaWanda. That's my godmother. I love you. It's so great to always have you in being a part of the show. And John says Rihanna should have ended with a gender reveal. Could have been blue or pink smoke at the end. I wonder if she knows yet. I don't know. Listen, there were some people kind of dragging her, like, it was just okay. Here's what I'm going to say. I like Rihanna. I like her music. So I was fine with the fact that she sang, and I like the fact that she had some clothes on. It's not the best of all time. I mean, some of you that perhaps listen were not around for the Prince halftime show. And so for me, nothing yet has topped that. And so it's going to be real hard to top that Prince show. And there have been some great halftimes, and so I enjoyed it. Good for her. And I thought the stages and stuff. It was interesting watching an interview with somebody from her team who said, from the production side of the show, who said she's afraid of heights. She'd been out there, I guess, about a couple of weeks working on it, and she was afraid of heights. Wow, that's impressive. But she felt most comfortable at the highest point, which was like 60 feet. So, good for good for Rihanna. It was a good time, and it was, the game was so great. One of the things that I might show you is, and that I'll post on my platforms, is just, I'm always fascinated, and I've seen this 12 times or so covering Super Bowls, at how they set up halftime and get people off the field, right? Because you got a lot of moving parts. You've got to get all that equipment, the staging or whatever, onto the field, and you got to make sure it's secure and safe. Then you've got to get the artists and the dancers and all the people, and so there's a sound check way before. Obviously, people are even in the stadium, so everything's got to be on. And then you've got to move the people off the field because halftime is longer, but it's not all day. I think halftime is it 20 minutes? The Super Bowl. Her performance was. She sang 13 songs or 14 songs in 13 minutes, or vice versa, 14 songs in 13 minutes. Then you've got to move people off, and you got to get them off the field and make sure the field is ready. Because, oh, by the way, you got to play a whole other half of football, and the field was already hot garbage. So it's just always, for me, fascinating to see that level of coordination. I'm kind of geeky about those things, and I see it. I've seen it for years. So they spend time with that. The crew is huge, and seeing them do it in real time is always fun. They practice that a couple of weeks to be able to get it down, if you will, to a science. What was your favorite Super Bowl moment, and how excited are you for the future of? Obviously the Chiefs' young team, you expect them to be in the mix, in the hunt, in the conversation. Moving forward, but what about the Eagles? I think the Eagles, I said it, should go ahead and lock up Jalen Hurts, pay him the $50 million a year, whatever the going number is. But he's only going to get better, and the number's only going to get higher. And so I think you pay the man, and lock him up, and so that you can then, see what you do around him. But he's the key right now, and they need to take care of him. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some things that are happening around the National Football League. We're going to know, 4 o'clock today? Is that when free agency officially opens? What is going to happen with Aaron Rodgers? I know he's the biggest free agent quarterback, and so when he comes back from his dark retreat or whatever the heck it is that he's doing, I guess he will determine what's next for him. So he's a big factor. When I think about teams that Aaron Rodgers could go to, I think of the Jets. It's going to have to be a team that is really just missing that one piece to be a real contender. So I think about the Jets, as being an opportunity of some place that he might go. But who knows, Here's another question. Here's another name that I'll be curious to see what happens with this offseason, and that is Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. What is going to happen in Baltimore? Will they franchise him? And if they put the franchise tag on him, and he signs it, because he has to sign it, as the Texans learned from Jadeveon Clowney all those years ago, if they franchise him and he signs it, then another team could come in and make an offer and give up 2 first-round picks, right? They can give up some picks and have Lamar Jackson in the fold. Or if they do the exclusive franchise tag, which would add another $6 or $8 million to the number, I don't know. I'm really fascinated probably most about what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson. I'm not that interested in what's happening with Aaron Rodgers, probably because I'm just over him. And, is he gonna be all in? Is he gonna go someplace? Is he gonna show up in the spring or OTAs and start to develop some chemistry with his new team? Or is he gonna be the Aaron Rodgers you've seen the past few years? I don't know. I'm curious to see a little bit, but I'm much more fascinated by Lamar Jackson. And here's another guy, David Carr. If he's set to be released, where does David Carr end up? Right? Does he go to New Orleans? In the NFC South, that could be an interesting place for him. I had somebody say the Texans should get David Carr and then also draft a quarterback, and obviously in the first round with the number 2 pick. I don't see them getting a David Carr. Derek Carr, rather. I said David. Thank you for that, John. I appreciate it. I keep saying David. I'm just still, I remember David Carr in Houston, but it's Derek Carr. Where will Derek Carr end up? What's the place for him? I don't know. Where does he? There's probably some teams that could say, maybe here with a fresh start, this is the place for him. And you might not win. I heard somebody say this also. This is not my original line. You may not win because of Derek, but he can be helpful in winning. Like, he could be a piece that could be helpful in winning. He's not going to be a Mahomes that you may win because of, but you could. And that's right. I think the Jets first choice is they're going to probably try to go all in on Aaron Rodgers if Aaron is going to be available. And then if not, you're right, John, I think the Saints are another option. But I imagine the Jets will be putting all their eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket. And is that the best thing to do? I guess, if that's the guy you want, is to go all in for Aaron Rodgers. But you got to have a backup plan, because you just don't know what is he going to do? Is he going to really leave the Green Bay Packers? And I guess with the Packers, they have to decide, do we think Jordan Love is a guy that, is he good enough to take us to that next level? Is this the year that something changes, that Aaron Rodgers is no longer a Green Bay Packers? Remember, it's been a long time since he's won that Super Bowl. And, he obviously still is talented. I don't think he's done yet. I guess it just depends on whether or not he wants to work. Because even as good as he is, you still got to work, dude. You still got to, get in there and develop some chemistry and work with the players. And so he's too much for me. I mean, I know it comes down to he's super talented and yada, 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 but who knows where his head's going to be after his dark retreat. Isn't he going to sit somewhere in a dark house and listen to music? I mean, I don't know. It's something weird. It's something very Aaron Rodgers-like. And we just will not know until... we won't know until we know. How about that? So those are some of the pieces that are interesting to me. I know that people... a lot of you who follow the show are Houstonians, and you may be Houston Texans fans, and so your attention has turned to this offseason and the coaching staff and toward the draft. What will the Texans do at the number 2 pick? Do they go get a quarterback? Which one do they end up with? I'm going to say this now. I've had some of you inbox me and say, hey, would you package a deal and trade up to the number 1 pick? I would not. I wouldn't do it. The Texans have so many needs. If you can't get a quarterback at 2 that you can do something with, I mean, you say that there's 2. Maybe there's, maybe you like Stroud, maybe you like Bryce Young. We'll hear more conversation about the quarterbacks after the combine. There's always somebody at the combine who does something that either elevates their standing or kind of diminishes their value, right? That's going to happen in the combine in a few weeks. I'm not going, but that is going to happen. And so I'll be curious. I'll be watching, but I will not be there to see what's happening around the combine. I say I'm not going. I don't think I'm going, but anything can happen, right? I'll be curious to see what the rankings are. What's the chatter? What's the conversation after the combine about quarterbacks and some of these defensive players? And so, but no, I would not trade up 1 spot because you need all those picks you have, Houston Texans, because you have a lot of needs. Like, this team has a lot of needs. And so they've got the 2nd pick in the first round, the 13th pick in the first round. Then they've got the 2nd pick in every round thereafter. And they've got some other picks too, right? They've got some extra picks in this draft. And they have some money to spend in free agency. So we will see what Nick Caserio is going to do. Like, I am giving Nick the benefit of the doubt. I have not necessarily been all in on Nick, but here we are. And they hired DeMeco Ryans, and Nick seemed much more human at that press conference than I've seen him. I was like, maybe they're just finally kind of comfortable or relaxed because they got a coach that they genuinely all wanted. Maybe that's it. And so I think we just have to wait and see. But they've got to give DeMeco Ryans something to work with, because if you don't have any talent, right, or limited talent, or just not enough, you can be a really good coach and be an innovator and have great energy and be an amazing person, but what do you have to work with? That is super important. All right, so I'm going to change the conversation real quick before we get out of here. We've not talked at all about the Houston Rockets. We've not talked about the fact that last week, during the NFL's business, it's their week, right? It's Super Bowl week. There's stuff happening every day. There's Hall of Fame, new Hall of Fame members being announced. The people who will be inducted into Canton, Ohio this summer. Andre Johnson did not get in, right? Did not get in. And let me say this. I was not terribly surprised. I wanted him. I wanted to see him make it. I wasn't, the list wasn't super impressive to me, but okay. There were no receivers that went in this year. And not that it's a definite that next year there will be, but just when you kind of know how the cycle of the Hall of Fame works, I felt like from the beginning when Dre was nominated, it would take him 2 or 3 years. Pardon me. I hope I'm right, because that would mean next year he'd go in, right? Year 3. I always thought that. Have a little sip of water. So maybe it's year 3. I didn't think he'd go in on the first ballot. I wasn't super optimistic about this year, but I was hopeful. And maybe it's next year. So maybe it's next year. So they have the Hall of Fame announcement. They have the Man of the Year, which was Dak Prescott. I have the MVP, of course, which was Patrick Mahomes. And then DeMar Hamlin was around. He was there. And I am trying to pull up. So this Houston Rockets team is, John said there's nothing to talk about with the Rockets. I got a call from one of my dear friends on Friday, who's a huge Rockets fan, and he said, if this thing works out, he said that, let me see if I can pull it up, because I don't want to misquote him. He said, no, that's not it. Did I delete it? Man. Anyway, what he said was, if this trade works out, Rafael Stone will go down as the most brilliant general manager in maybe the Rockets history, but maybe it was in the market. I don't even remember, but he was super excited about the deals and about the additional capital. They moved on from Eric Gordon, and Eric wanted to be with the team that had a chance to win, right? This team is a ways off. And it's got to be tough for a veteran. And while you need veteran leadership, I like Eric Gordon personally. I don't know that he's the veteran, right? You need some veteran leadership with these young guys. It doesn't matter because he's gone now, but you need the right veteran. And no, it was not going to be James Harden. For those of you who were really kind of freaking out the last couple of weeks, could James Harden really be coming back? He's not coming back to Houston at all. I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe the Rockets would make that kind of a move. All this capital you got, you're just going to... And all this you've gone through the past 3 years, you're going to blow it? You're going to just bring the guy back that kind of started this whole... Anyway, I didn't think it was going to happen. And if James Harden is really big on winning, why would he come back to Houston? This team's not about to win a championship. Oh, wait, could it be that that's what he says, but not really what matters? Anyway, I don't know. He's not going to be a Rocket, and so there it is. John says, keep losing to increase the odds to get Victor Wembanyama. John, they're going to be in the hunt. But I think it's dangerous when you have, but especially when you have so many young players. Losing's hard. It's hard. And you don't just flip the switch and say, okay, we're done losing now. Let's turn it around and let's build a culture of winning. It doesn't work like that. And I've seen these players because I've covered them since they've been in the league, like a Josh Christopher, who was, super enthusiastic, and he still is for the most part. But I've seen some times when it's different for them. This losing is really, really hard. And you don't just lose and think you're going to flip a switch and say, now it's time. I've just never been a proponent of that. You're going to be in a position to get a really good player because look where you are. But if you can be any better, what is it that you can do to get these guys in a position so that when you get the next young player, right, because you're going to still be young, that you can take that next step, because they're all wild cards. They can be incredibly talented and it can look great. I'll give you one. I think we all felt like Zion Williamson leaving college, going to the league, was going to be this player who, a transformational player. He just changes the dynamics, changes the trajectory of your team is, a whole lot different. But can he stay healthy, right? Is he going to be able to be on the floor enough? And that's a health thing. But what I'm saying is it could be any number of issues. So while you can say, yes, let's go get guy XYZ, but you don't really know how that's going to translate into the NBA until they get to the NBA. And then once they get to the NBA, there's still a lot they have to learn about playing in the NBA. So I said that to say I don't believe in tanking. If you're bad, you're just bad. And that's unfortunate. But you wouldn't be better. But I do not believe in tanking. So I am totally against that. No way, no how. Hey, listen, I appreciate all of you guys tuning in today. Follow I'm going to play 10 seconds of this Cheryl Lee Ralph, because I didn't get it from TV. I was in the stadium, so I'm going to give you 10 seconds of it and see if we can get away with it. This is a little piece of Cheryl Lee Ralph singing, lift every voice and sing. She put her foot in it at the Super Bowl. Okay, so I didn't really just, play 10 seconds. It was just too good, but I didn't play the whole thing. So anyway, I just thought it was amazing. I thought she sang amazing. She looked amazing. And what a great way to wrap up this week's show. Thank you for being a part of Chalk Talk. Happy Valentine's Day. Before we get out of here, I'm going to remind you about the people who help us do this each and every week. The World Youth Foundation. Pay attention, look in the notes, follow in the chat so you can find out about the upcoming African American Male Wellness Walk. It's April the 15th at Texas Southern University. It's a 5K. It will start and end there. Also, there's a Real Men Real Talk coming up this week. I believe it is the 16th of February. So that's this week. I'm going to post that because I'd like for as many of you who can to go. I've never been, obviously I'm not a man, but I so support this, that men go and are able to just chill out with some other brothers and have some great conversations. So I'm going to share that information as well. That's all a part of the work that I do, collaboration I have with the World Youth Foundation. And remember, I love Jinka. If you're feeling a little under the weather, or if you just want to make sure that you're always feeling great, it helps with blood flow, it helps with circulation, it helps with inflammation, and I think you want to make sure that you go get your Jinka. You can get it at HEB. Here's where you find it, or you can get it online at ilovejinka.com.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department of Probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yep. Look at that Jinka sale. Look at that Jinka.
Popcorn and organic hand whipped body butter. If you're in Houston, you can get it at Sunshine's Vegetarian Deli. I'll be taking another batch over later today, but there should be already some there. And you can get it online at KimmyTreats.com. Everybody, remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. If you are not vaccinated for COVID, I'm going to still encourage you to do so. And, hey, be registered to vote. Get registered to vote. I want you to be registered so that you stay registered, and whenever there's a time to vote, you are ready. So make sure that you go out and get registered and be involved in your communities. Go to city council meetings, go to school board meetings, be involved. This time now is so crucial. I'm always going to encourage you to do that, while I also encourage you to share the video so we can continue to grow the Chalk Talk tribe. Thank you, everybody. Make it a great week. I'll see you next Tuesday on Chalk Talk, and in between, I'll see you across all my platforms. Have a great week, everybody.